triremes had been developed by the Greek state of Corinth, the ancient world's finest shipbuilders. Stacking 170 oarsmen on 3 levels, their combination of lightweight and raw power gave them astonishing speed and maneuverability. There was nothing else like them on the water.
In contemporary terms, a trireme is a missile. The object of a trireme is to ram the enemy's ship. It is a very narrow, very light, very sleek, and very fast weapon.
But these triremes were also exceedingly expensive. And Themistocles' vision of a vast Athenian navy might never have come to pass if it had not been for one stroke of luck. In the year 483 BC, the Athenians discovered a great vein of silver in their territory, worth 100 talents, a vast amount in the ancient world. The Athenians wanted to divide these newfound riches among themselves. But then Themistocles stood up in the assembly. He wanted to spend the money on ships. But he also knew that this would be a hard proposal to sell. And so Themistocles played a complex bluff.
His argument is not that the money should be used to build a fleet against Persia, but rather it should be used to build a fleet against Athens' local rival, the Greek city-state of Aegina. The reason Themistocles does this is that he knew it would simply be too upsetting to remind people of the Persian threat. It's a difficult argument to make and a tribute to his political skill that he's able to do it.
Themistocles convinced the Athenians to build the greatest naval force in Greece. And not a moment too soon. The great Persian king Darius died in 486 BC, and his son Xerxes assumed his father's throne. Xerxes' first action was to vow vengeance for his father's defeat at the hands of the Athenians.
On my father's behalf, and on behalf of all my subjects, I will not rest until I have taken Athens and burnt it to the ground.
As an imperial power, the Persians cannot allow small regional states like this to beat them with impunity.
Xerxes began to gather his forces. He conscripted troops from every corner of his empire. Arabians, Egyptians, Phoenicians, as well as Persians. Rumors began to leak back to Athens that Xerxes' army numbered nearly 2 million men, that it was the greatest force the world had ever seen, that soon it would be ready to march. And then finally, in the spring of 480 BC, news reached Athens. The Persian army had set out for Greece. History records that Xerxes' troops drank rivers dry. Trampled fields to the raw earth, ravaging the land as they marched on towards Greece. Xerxes was confident of victory.
We shall so extend the empire of Persia that its boundaries will be God's own sky, so that the sun will not look on any land, that is not ours.
When the Greeks realized that the Persians were invading again, terror gripped the whole country. For the Athenians, who knew that they would be Xerxes' first target, it seemed that this could only be the end. As panic gripped the city, they turned desperately to their gods. They sent a messenger to the oracle to find out their fate. Here, high in the Greek mountains, can still be found the site of Delphi, the most famous of the Greek oracles. Built around a vast chasm in the mountain from which a sacred spring still flows. Here the Greeks would come to discover their future. They would ask questions of the Pythia, the mysterious priestess who spoke with the voice of the god Apollo.
People came from all over the Greek world to consult Delphi, and sometimes came from outside the Greek world as well. It was considered to be the centre of the universe. The omphalos, the navel stone of the whole world, was at Delphi. People asked questions about their private life, which are just the sorts of questions people want answers to now.
Archaeologists have discovered copies of the questions asked of these ancient oracles.
Has Aristos stolen the wool from the mattress?
Hermione asks, "What should I do to have useful children?"
But as the Athenians walked up this path 2,500 years ago, their question was simple and grave. What could they do to save themselves? The oracle's response could not have been more negative.
Why sit you, doomed ones? Fly to the ends of the earth. All is ruin, for fire and the headlong god of war shall bring you low.
When this message came back to Athens, the Democratic Assembly dissolved into uproar. It seemed that even the gods had deserted them. But Themistocles refused to panic. He had spent every day since the Battle of Marathon waiting for this moment. He sent the envoys back to Delphi for a second prophecy.
Though all else shall be taken, Zeus, the all-seeing, grants that the wooden wall only shall not fail.
Argument raged as to what this wooden wall could be. Some said it meant the stronghold at the center of Athens, the Acropolis. But Themistocles had a different idea.
He read the oracle and he insisted that it had a different interpretation. He said the ships are the wooden barricade which are going to be the key to our success.
Themistocles' plan was daring. Avoid a conflict on land and fight the Persians at sea. He ordered the evacuation of Athens for the first time in her history. This order for evacuation, carved into a stone tablet for public display, is still preserved, discovered in the back of a Greek coffeehouse.
The Athenians shall send their children and wives to the village of Troezen. All the men should embark on the 200 ships that have been prepared to fight the barbarian.
Themistocles ordered that his fleet of triremes should gather at Salamis, a tiny island off the Athenian coast.
Themistocles' strategy is remarkable not only because it is innovative and because it is bold, but because it requires extraordinary self-sacrifice on the part of the Athenian people. He wants every man, woman, and child to leave their homes and possessions and to go into exile.